If you're ambitious but lazy, this video is for you. Now, we all know that in order to close the gap between who you are and who you're meant to become, the only thing standing between those two things is action. We all know that nothing happens without action. So why is it so hard to take action? Maybe you think you're lazy, but I don't think you're lazy. It goes a lot deeper than that. So in this video, we're going to unpack what's really behind your inaction and how to finally start closing that gap between who you are and who you are meant to become. Okay, let's first talk about the word lazy. Now, how you label yourself, the words that you use to describe yourself are extremely important. So you're calling yourself lazy, so that just perpetuates lazy behavior. But really, maybe you're not just lazy. Maybe you actually just care too much. Have you ever thought about that? If you're ambitious, you probably have big dreams that you really, really care about. The funny thing is, the more ambitious you are, the more prone to procrastination you're probably going to be. And therefore, you might tend to think because you procrastinate so much, you're also really lazy. But actually, nothing could be further from the truth. Because when you're ambitious, by nature, you are going for big, bold things. And the way procrastination works is the harder the result or the outcome feels to your brain, the more likely your brain is to want to procrastinate doing it. Nothing helps me understand procrastination better than Dr. Piers Steele's explanation in his book, The Procrastination Equation. He explains that the level of motivation you have is going to be a direct result of 4 factors. Expectancy, which is how much you believe that you can succeed. Value, which is how much this goal matters to you, how valuable it is to you. Impulsiveness, which is how much you tend to get distracted by short-term gratification. And delay, which is how far off the benefit or the reward of accomplishing that goal feels. So if you really want to overcome procrastination, it's not about working harder and beating yourself up because you're lazy. It's really about understanding this equation and moving the variables in your favor. The first is to boost expectancy. The more you believe you can succeed, the more motivated you're going to be. And the easiest way to boost expectancy is to set goals that you know you can achieve. Like chunk down your big goal into smaller goals. So instead of saying, I'm going to pay off $100,000 of debt and become debt-free, instead of a huge goal where already the expectancy of that is going to be basically nothing, why don't you chunk that down to, I'm just going to pay off $1,000 of debt. Like maybe you don't expect that you can pay off $100,000, but you can surely confidently expect that you can pay off $1,000. So immediately you've boosted expectancy. The second part of that is to increase value. Connect achieving this goal, however small, to something really, really meaningful and valuable to you. If anyone were to ask me what was the one thing that helped me the most in going from $100,000 in debt to becoming a self-made millionaire in 7 years, so this is actually something I talk extensively about in my book, At a Zero, about getting in touch with what I call your intrinsic why. It is your deeply personal reason for wanting financial freedom or whatever goal it is that you want. Before you set out to do anything, this is the first piece you need to have in place. Why the hell do you want this thing? You need to feel that in your bones. Once you have it, you've increased the value and your motivation is just going to be through the roof. You will not need to wake up looking for motivation ever again. So in my book, I not only share about the story of how I got in touch with my intrinsic why, but I'll also walk you through several journaling prompts to help you get in touch with your intrinsic why. The other hack for increasing your motivation and not procrastinating is to work on the impulsiveness side of the equation. If you reduce impulsiveness, that will increase your motivation. So reduce distractions rather than using willpower to not be distracted and look at your phone. Better yet, turn it off and put it in a different room. Then you're not even tempted to pick up your phone because out of sight, out of mind. Another trick is when you sit down to work on that big, hairy goal, you could even delete the social media apps off your phone. So if you really wanted to distract yourself and check Instagram during your focus block, you'd have to actually re-download the app. And then you can also shrink the delay. When the payoff of accomplishing the goal feels really far away, then you're less likely to feel motivated. So one trick is to break the goal into much shorter term goals and then reward yourself every time you meet these little goals. That way you get little dopamine hits along the way. This is literally how I got out of $100,000 of debt. Rather than thinking of paying off $100,000, every time I paid off $1,000, I felt really good about myself. I made sure to create little dopamine hits along the way so I didn't feel like it was this huge multi-year long journey where I couldn't have fun or enjoy my life while I was paying off off debt. These are all the little hacks that I share throughout my book to help you accelerate your path to financial freedom, because no, it does not have to take 10 years. It doesn't have to take till you're 65. If you can just increase your motivation along the way, you can get there a lot faster. So by now, we've established that procrastination is not really laziness. It's just not understanding how motivation works. The other piece to being ambitious but lazy is that maybe you just need to work with your energy instead of against it. We live in a society that tells everyone that you need to wake up at 5 a.m. and do your ice cold plunge bath, and you need to work out, lift weights, meditate, and eat a high protein breakfast. All of this before 7:30 a.m. We live in this like hustle 24/7 culture that kind of shames you for not doing enough. And so maybe all of that has led you to believe that perhaps you are lazy. But honestly, I don't think you're lazy. It's just that society's definition of hustle is just not working for you. Maybe the way is, instead of hustling harder, it's actually just to find a way to not have to hustle in order to reach your goals. Because actually, success can be easy if you make it. One way to do this is something I learned from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, which is to build systems, not goals. As James Clear says, we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So one really easy, simple system that you can put into place right now is something that he calls habit stacking. This is where you add on a new habit that you want to create on to something that you're already doing every single day. So we all brush our teeth every single day, right? Or at least I hope so. So a system you can create is, after I brush my teeth, I will work out and do 10 push-ups. Or after I brush my teeth, I will write for 10 minutes. Or after I brush my teeth, I'll go through my budgeting app on my phone and update my finances. I know for a lot of people, budgeting is a really hard habit to make stick. So the best way to make that a habit is to stack that onto something that you already do. Whether that's brushing your teeth, maybe it's walking your dog, or it's making your bed, something that you already do every single day, stack that on. Another quick way to make success inevitable and effortless instead of having to hustle is to design your environment. Again, I learned this from James Clear. He talks about this study done at the University of Cambridge of a cafeteria where they were trying to decrease the amount of soda that the adults were drinking. And simply by redesigning the layout of the cafeteria and moving where there were water bottles versus soda, they were able to reduce soda sales by 11.4% and increase water sales by 25.8%. So they didn't have anyone use willpower. They didn't change anything other than the placement of the water bottles and soda. So just by changing your environment, you can already effortlessly make better choices. You can put your phone in another room while you work. You can throw out all the junk food in your house and only keep healthy food and keep that front and center in the front of your fridge. You can automate your savings. This is the easiest way to improve your finances really fast, effortlessly, is you just set an automatic transfer from your checking account to a high yield savings account. I'll link to some of my favorite ones below. Every single month, rain or shine, out of every paycheck, $500 goes straight from checking to savings, and that's money for you to build wealth and get financially free. If you can just architect your environment with these little things, 10 years later, you'll be shocked at where you've ended up pretty much without even trying. Another tip is to work with your energy instead of against it. For example, a lot of us have a chronotype. Some of us are much more active and sharper in the mornings and others more at night. I'm more of a night person. I have tried to become a morning person. It doesn't work for me. I've quit trying to do 6 a.m. mornings and being productive and doing my best work before 9 a.m. Usually my creativity kicks in late at night when everybody's asleep and nobody's bothering me, and it's around 10 p.m. So for you, just figure out what time of day you have the most energy and batch your most creative strategizing work for that time. And then when you have the low energy, do your admin work, your errands, answering emails, watching videos, the passive kind of stuff for those low energy periods. Also, this is particular to women. We have a 28-day hormonal cycle that also really dictates our energy. For example, during the first few days of your cycle and when you're on your period is usually a day of rest, and it's very hard to have a lot of energy to do big things. And then during the second part of your cycle, the follicular phase, your estrogen levels are starting to rise, so you have more energy to strategize, start new projects, plan. And then during ovulation, because your estrogen is at its highest, you're magnetic, you're charismatic, it's time to go do public, like speaking engagements and networking. And then during the luteal phase is when estrogen levels start to drop, and it's a good time to finish tasks, to do kind of detailed admin work and execute and bring things to a completion. Bottom line is, it's okay to find a way to work that fits you. Just because you don't produce at a level, at a pace, or in a style that somebody else does not mean that you're lazy. It just maybe means you need to find a way that works for you. And remember, how you talk to yourself is everything, because language tells your brain who you are, and then that informs your actions, which then creates your results. So maybe you're not lazy. You're just someone who cares a lot. Maybe you're not lazy. You're just someone who has big dreams. And maybe you're not behind. You're actually just incubating, getting ready to close the gap between who you are now and the person you are meant to become. So for all you ambitious but lazy people out there, you're in good company. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.